So in this video, I'll be walking through your data analysis for Lab 5, identifying unknowns. So your data for this experiment is all going to be in this table right here. In each one of these spots, in these directions, it says write NR or R in each empty box. So this is going to be full of a bunch of NRs or Rs. But more specifically in the lab instructions, it also tells you that you should make a note if there is a reaction, to make a note of what exactly you're observing, kind of like what you see here in this example. So if there's a reaction, like you're going to make a note that it turned into something that was yellow. So you'll have a lot of R's and NR's and then some little notes with your R's about what the reaction actually looked like. And this whole thing is going to be completely filled out with a whole bunch of information. And I'm just randomly writing stuff down, so don't think that these are the correct answers. Once this is completely filled in, then your job is to try to figure out the identity of each one of the 9 different solutions. The possible identities are in this table right here, and they're also listed on the front page of the lab assignment. So one thing that some students get a little bit confused by is that they assume it's more simple than it is. Like they just assume that the solutions are in this order, and that solution number 1 is AgNO3 and 2 is NH4Cl, and it's not that easy. So don't make that assumption. You have to figure out what solution number 1 is, and it could be any one of those things. Now, the way that you're going to do that is by looking at your data, your reactions, and comparing them to the reactions on this particular reference sheet. Your big hint here, like the one thing that's going to be the easiest to find, is silver nitrate, because you can see that silver nitrate has a ton of reactions. It does a ton of things. So on your data table, you're going to find, maybe it's going to be across this row, but maybe it's going to be, something like this. You're going to find one of your substances, one of your 9 solutions that reacted most of the time, like almost all the time. And that you'll start there. You'll say, okay, I'm going to find out of these 9 solutions, I'm going to find the one that reacted over and over and over and over again. Let's just say that it's this guy right here, number 7. Let's just say that this one had a ton of reactions. And that means I'm going to know that this is AgNO3. So that's going to be my starting point. Once I know which one is AgNO3, then we're going to kind of zoom in here and take a closer look at AgNO3's reactions because they're colorful. So, for example, notice that AgNO3 makes a brown solution when it's mixed with NaOH, and nothing else turns brown. Everything else is yellow or white. So once you know what AgNO3 is, when you find the corresponding solution that caused it to turn brown, now you know where NaOH is. So let's say that this was my brown solution. That would tell me that number 3 is the NaOH. Number 3 is my NaOH. And we're just going to kind of, you're just going to kind of approach it like that. There are a couple of solutions that will turn yellow with AgNO3. So those are going to be a little bit trickier to figure out, but you can totally do it. There is one of the solutions with AgNO3 that turns white, also with somebody else makes a fizzy solution. And so that should help you find this H2SO4. So you can find one of the AgNO3s that turns white. You've got several of them. One of those, so this one or this one or this one or this one in your data will also have made a fizzing solution with somebody else. You should be able to find water pretty easily because water doesn't react with anything. So you're just going to kind of have to go back and forth. Now, one thing that's going to be a little bit tricky, or possibly a little bit tricky, is that this is real lab, and real chemistry, and things don't always work the way that you expect. So it is possible that maybe you have an observation over here that doesn't align with your reference, or you might be missing something. There might be something on this reference sheet that you feel like you should have seen and you didn't, and that might make it tricky for you to identify. There is a possibility possibility that you may not actually be able to concrete specifically identify all 9 of those solutions. Like you might get to a point where you could say solution 5 and 6, I know one of these 2 solutions is NaOH and the other is NaCl, but I'm not going to be able to distinguish between the 2 of them. And that's okay as long as your data supports that. If I look at your data and I come to the same conclusions that like I can't identify specifically which one is 5 and which one is 6, which one is NaCl, etc., then you'll be fine. So it's a good idea for this experiment that you actually work on the post lab while you're in lab and not try to do it from home, because that way, if you need to repeat an experiment, you'll have everything handy. And hopefully you're looking at this video before you do the lab and you have that information and you're not trying to do it from home where you can't replicate anything. But this is, like I said, once you get this figured out, once you start identifying your AgNO3 and work from there, the rest of it should come pretty quickly.